today, as I said, the food companies absolutely have a stranglehold on nutritional research. There's tens of thousands of nutritional studies put out every single year. God knows what they say. I think it's actually pretty simple. And the foundational NIH guidance, the millions of dollars funded by the NIH nutritional study, the Food Compass, was also jointly funded by food companies and says that Lucky Charms are 3 times healthier than beef, and that Honey Nut Cheerios are healthier than eggs, and that Cheerios are as good as quinoa. And it says that orange juice should be highly encouraged for children, which is, again, just diabetes water, doesn't have the fiber, terrible. It says it should be encouraged, and kids can drink that every day. This is a foundational study that is being used actively right now, funded by the NIH, to influence childhood marketing and nutrition guidelines. So you've had this nutrition ecosystem totally dependent and funded by food companies saying that there's no bad foods. When
are there people inside of these research institutions, whether they're at universities or they are kind of publicly funded things or even private research laboratories, are they dumb? Are they just bought off and they're in on the game? Or is somehow are they told, hey, run a study this way, and it's like stacked against them, and,
right,
and they're just, kind of monkeys executing plans? Like how is it that you have worked your entire career to be a researcher, a scientist, a nutritionist, or whatever, and then you say with a straight face and put your name on a document that says that Lucky Charms are 3 times healthier than beef?
So we all know the system's screwed and rigged, right? What I'm really trying to do, and I think is resonating, is use my experience to really paint the specifics. And I actually have a specific story on this. So my life's calling right now with my partner, Justin Mayers, we have a company trying to change food incentives, but we are trying to call attention to specifics of the rigged system. So we are proud that we brought attention to this Lucky Charms study. It was released a year ago, but he wrote a piece on Mike Solana's Substack, and a tweet I did went viral.
Mike Solana is fantastic.
He's the man.
Yeah.
He's the man. So he was pushing it.
Pirate Wires.
Yeah, it's the best
subscriber die,
and it's driving real change. So I'll explain to you how it's actually. I believe Pirate Wires. I think it's actually unquestioned. It saved lives in this case. So the Pirate Wires article went viral. I did a tweet that went viral of that. Joe Rogan saw it. So Joe Rogan posted about it. Fox News, which is the only network that will cover anti-farmer stories, which we can get into, covered it nightly. And there was a lot of pressure. Okay. What I've heard is that there was active efforts to have these labels that said Lucky Charms, Honey Nut Cheerios are great, on literally packaging standardized throughout Africa and in the US. And the Rockefeller Foundation, other big funders of this study and the research and the kind of community, because of the pressure, actually stopped that effort to have these labels saying that these terrible foods are good because of that pressure, which is great.
Why is the Rockefeller Foundation or any other foundation, right, that is alleged to be involved in this stuff, why would they want to get those labels on there? Just because they're investors in the food companies or something else?
Well, I can get a little bit into the motivations specifically. So with that attention, I was contacted by the lead author of the study, a guy named Dariush, a doctor is his first name. And he was at Davos and called me pretty upset. He said he's getting hundreds of angry emails, to which I replied that 25% of kids have prediabetes right now because of rigged studies like this, and I understand why people are angry. And I'll just go through, and I dug into these questions with him, and I'll just tell you what he said. I said, you've been paid personal payments. So his study is to close not just research funding, but personal payments from a manifold of processed food companies, as many nutrition researchers get. The study itself was funded by Danone and other processed food companies. Danone makes almond milk. The number one dairy item in this study, not Greek yogurt, grass-fed, it was chocolate almond milk. Chocolate almond milk was the number one rated dairy, and Danone, which is the chief funder of the study, was the main funder. You can't even make it up. I asked him point blank, when a group or company gives you millions of dollars, he said, absolutely not. Do your personal payments influence your research? Absolutely not. I asked him specifics. He said orange juice should be encouraged for children. He spent literally, it was comical, 15 minutes explaining why Lucky Charms are not only magically delicious, but also should be encouraged.
What is his argument? I mean, let's just stay on that for a second. Yeah. What is his argument as to why Lucky Charms should be encouraged for kids? I wouldn't give my kid Lucky Charms if it was my choice, right? Obviously, kids want to eat stuff, right?
And, they get addicted. I mean, they're weaponized with sugar and processed grains.
Yeah, and so to some degree, like you don't want to not allow your kid to ever have sugar no matter what or whatever. But I think most parents are like, look, I want my kid to be happy, but I also want my kid to be healthy, right? And so if I want my kid to be happy and healthy, I'm not going to feed them Lucky Charms every day. Maybe they get it every once in a while. It's kind of like a treat, ice cream, whatever, right? I don't think you want your kid to live like they're in like a prison. But at the same time, like, dude, how can you say that you should encourage kids to eat Lucky Charms every day?
Yeah, I mean, sidebar on the drug point. I agree. I'm not. You can't be just a total zealot with your kids. But I think it is important that just because something's normalized doesn't mean it's very, very wrong. I think doctors used to smoke in the 60s in their offices, and I do think actually sugar and the fact that it's so normalized for kids, we're going to look back on with shame. I really do believe that. It's a highly addictive dopamine trigger. I think it's indistinguishable from many other drugs, and it is very dangerous. So I just, as a new parent, I agree, you can't be a zealot, but like it is, I think, highly problematic that sugar is normalized. To the specific question, what he specifically said, and again, I am a tech pro, I'm not a medical, professional, but, again, I think I actually have a really good perspective on this because I saw early in my career unimpressive people rigging the system. And I will tell you, like, you have grain companies paying him. You have any reading of the literature or any just common sense, highly processed grains are an absolute disaster. The shift to highly processed grains, which take out the fiber, all the nutritional value to make the grain shelf stable, they don't do this as much in Europe. Like it's outlawed. There are these grains that are sprayed with Cheerios has so many pesticides on it. It needs to be differently formulated in Europe. Like these are very, very problematic. And he aggressively argued that these highly processed shelf stable frankenfoods, these grains, which are then fortified with vitamins, you basically just like in a lab put some vitamins on, are just as good as a whole grain, as quinoa or another whole grain, that's natural, that humans are evolutionarily created over hundreds of thousands of years to eat. He said the fortified processed grains. And I just think that's just completely wrong. I mean, it's not that much. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to look at what's happening to the American people, to look at what's happening to health and trace it to food. And it's three things with food. It's highly processed grains, it's sugar, which we're eating 100 times more of, and it's these industrial seed oils, which are highly inflammatory. These are all processed grains were created just 100 years ago. They're new inventions. Same with seed oils, and added sugar is basically a new thing in 100 years. Everything, and doctors, I think any doctor would agree with this, the underlying theme of disease is inflammation. Why are we chronically inflamed? Because we're eating as a foundation of our diet things that we are not made to eat. These are new processed inventions.